But if you're also going and taking all this other stuff about stuff that's not relevant, it might be appropriate to bring in a special master and discern what is relevant and what is not. What's wrong with that?
Well, let's look at the different categories of documents. Attorney-client privilege documents. Everyone agrees that those should be returned to the president. It wasn't necessarily bad to pick them up because you don't go into someone's house and look document by document. You take what you think is going to be responsive, and then you sort it out through a taint team. No one disputes that that goes back, okay? The classified stuff are government documents, and they go to the government. There is no scenario legally under which the president gets to keep the government documents, whether it's classified or unclassified. If it deals with government stuff and it's government, it goes back to the government.
I grant you that based on
So the only other
argument.
thing, the only things would be, personal items and clearly personal stuff. The reason that was included to be seized, the issue here is not who ends up with it. The question is, could they have seized it? They could seize it and they can keep it if it's evidence of the way the documents, the classified documents and the government documents were stored. So if you find very sensitive documents in Trump's desk along with his passports, that ties Trump to those documents. The passports are things that the government are, they're personal stuff to Trump. But the fact that they're found with the classified documents is evidentiary. And the government decides whether that's relevant. Eventually, he'll get that stuff back. The problem I have with the special master is what she's done on what's called executive privilege documents. And she didn't address the only question that's in dispute, which is, can the former president have standing to say that the investigators don't even get to look at the documents, the classified documents that he wrongfully had at Mar-a-Lago? And that's the only question. And she dodges it. And then she says that she's bringing in a special master to look at whether stuff is executive privilege or not. That's not where the dispute is. I mean, if the government came today and said, we'll stipulate that everything that's deliberative there, whether it's classified or not, would ordinarily be subject to executive privilege, it begs the question. That's not what the issue is. That's why I think it was that opinion was a mistake.
So you think it'll be appealed and overruled? Is the
I hope it's appealed.
You believe it?
Yeah.
Do you have a view on how it ends?
Yeah. I think, as I've said all along, there are two questions. Will the government be able to make out a technical case? Will they have evidence by which that they could indict somebody on, including him? And that's the first question, and I think they're getting very close to that point, frankly.
This is Bill Barr, Trump's own attorney general, issuing some grim news for the former president amid his efforts to try and delay his impending indictment by seeking a special master to review the documents seized from Mar-a-Lago. Now, days ago, a Trump-appointed judge named Eileen Cannon granted his request to appoint a special master, meaning that a third party would be brought in to review the materials that were taken from Mar-a-Lago. The order also halts the Justice Department from continuing its review of the materials seized, quote, pending completion of the special master's review or further court order. The classification review and intelligence assessments being conducted at the DNI will continue, but what's especially telling about her decision to bring in the special master is, quote, the interest in ensuring the integrity of an orderly process amid swirling allegations of bias and media leaks. But here's the thing, these swirling allegations of bias come from Trump. In other words, Trump cries bias, uses his own cries of bias to pressure a judge who he appointed. The judge defers to Trump on claims of bias that he himself created, and then she refers to those in ruling in Trump's favor. If you were looking for the epitome of circular logic, you just got it. Consider, too, by claiming that a third party is needed, she's basically suggesting that the federal government isn't to be trusted. Like, if your contention is that they can't be fair for the Trump document review, then you're basically saying that they can't be fair in any circumstance, if this is really a question of moral consistency. And this is an issue that pervades the right. When things don't go their way, they sow distrust in the entire system. Biden was named the winner, so the whole system must be corrupt. The whole system must be rigged against him. The entire DOJ is biased. For a party that once branded itself the party of personal responsibility, they sure do seem to have an issue taking any personal responsibility. And by the way, just to give an indication of just how inappropriate it was for this judge to kowtow to the Trump team like she did, listen to what former federal prosecutor Glenn Kirshner had to say about it during this week's interview.
First of all, Judge Aileen Cannon, who is the judge that somehow got appointed to hear Donald Trump's demand to have a special master appointed, She's a Federalist Society member since 2005 when she was in her mid-20s. It's not what I was doing in my mid-20s. I was, finding out where I could get the cheapest beer and pizza. Yeah, Judge Cannon has been a Federalist Society member since 2005. I think it's worth noting that not only was she nominated by Donald Trump, but she was confirmed by Mitch McConnell's Senate after Donald Trump lost the 2020 presidential election. That tells us something. It's a data point. And Donald Trump made the demand that she appoint a special master. And here's something I've never seen in my 30 years as a prosecutor, Brian. The judge, before she even asked the prosecutors at the Department of Justice to state their opinion, to file their brief, to argue their case, she said, I tentatively am inclined to grant Donald Trump's request for a second master. That's not the way litigation is supposed to work. You hear from both parties, and then you make your announcement, whether tentative or final. She didn't do that. Now she's kind of found herself in a tough spot because the Department of Justice filed a motion that legally and factually knocks out of the box every legal argument Donald Trump's defense team made as to why she should appoint a special master.
And so let's be clear about what this was. Trump knows that the government has him dead to rights. Just on the obstruction of an official proceeding charge alone in the Mar-a-Lago search, Trump was subpoenaed to turn over the documents that he had at Mar-a-Lago, and he refused. As a result, federal investigators got a search warrant, they went to Mar-a-Lago, and they found the documents responsive to the subpoena. If you were looking for an easy obstruction case to prove, this is exactly it. So Trump is well aware that he doesn't have a leg to stand on here. What Judge Cannon did is grant Trump more time to delay, and that has always been useful for a political party that uses that time to prop up conspiracy theories and disinformation. Remember, even before this delay, we were contending with an avalanche of disinformation, like this idea that the FBI planted the evidence, that Trump had declassified all of the documents that he had previously suggested were planted, and on and on. And so it's very clear that the more time the Trump team has, the more they'll fill that vacuum with anything and everything to see what sticks. As Steve Bannon himself says, they will flood the zone with shit. That's not only a move of desperation, it is a purposeful strategy, and it's worked for them in the past. So at this point, what we should do is focus on the facts, ignore the conspiracy theories that'll emerge in the coming days, and remember that Donald Trump stole classified documents from the White House, a crime that any other human being would already be in prison for, a crime that the right itself spent the better part of a decade hyperventilating over when Hillary Clinton did 1/1000th of what Trump just did. So he may enjoy a brief delay thanks to his own appointed judge, but the facts aren't anywhere near being in his favor. Before you go, couple things. First, if you want to support my work, the best way is to subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. And second, if you want to see and hear more from me, check out my website, briantylercohen.com. That way you can get links to my podcast, merchandise, ways to donate to voting rights organizations, and so much more. The thumbnail is also right here on the screen, so go check it out. And as always, thank you so much for watching.